Our next is a transformational coach and a martial arts master. He's an international speaker and an international #1 best-selling author. So through his unique experiences in the world of both corporate and small business, in martial arts, in physical and mental health, and spiritual development, he creates alchemical change in his clients, which sounds jolly exciting, and I hope we get to see some. His style and technique can be provocative, so fasten your seatbelts, please, as he believes that adversity and challenge are powerful methods to create positive and lasting changes. Today, he will give you tools to make you fear less. So, I want to make sure that he's here. He's not quite here because, like all good things, he will come to those who wait. He's on his way. While we're waiting for him, I'm going to share something else super exciting with you, which is my little list here of goodies. So we've mentioned at various points throughout the day that there are prizes for those who make the best contributions on social media and ask some really good questions. We've covered some of these. We've mentioned the fact that there is dinner, bed and breakfast at the Hotel Brooklyn in Manchester, which Robin was talking about in our panel session, which sounds absolutely amazing. There's a copy of The Profit Secret. So if any of you are wondering how on earth you get from non-profit to profit, that's a very good read. There's a motivational map worth more than 55 quid. I'm not quite sure what a motivational map is, but I think that I want one. There are 3 copies. Let me show you this. You're going to be so excited about this. 3 copies of Deal Makers. So if you ever wish that you understood what all that legal jargon meant in normal English, then that's for you. 3 copies of that for you. A contract health check. If you want a quick MOT of your business, that's one of our marvellous prizes. A consultation with Deborah Wilkes. So any HR matter might you have, Deborah will be able to help you figure out your way through that in a private one-to-one session with her. And also there's a 1-hour coaching session with Marcia Morgan. And she was absolutely phenomenal on our panel earlier. If you're interested, that's a personal one-to-one session. And Marcia is also offering, and I love the name of this, has got to be the best thing going, a Justice, Peace and Poetry workshop. Justice, Peace and Poetry. How glorious does that sound? To create and develop an inclusive and equitable working environment. And then on top of that, we have a whole long list of speaker book vouchers. So if your reading list is looking a little light, you are in exactly the right place. Put great questions out, share fantastic social media posts. Don't forget to hashtag everything up to the eyeballs, and you will receive your reward. Now, delighted. Oh, and you will receive your reward. Right. I am now delighted, at long last, to introduce to you the most marvellous international speaker and coach, Garry Jones. Welcome, Garry. At long last, to introduce to you the most marvellous international speaker and coach.
Welcome, everybody.
Garry Jones.
I hope you can hear me well. I'm having the same problem, I think, as Penny here in Tiffany, but that's okay.
Can you hear me now, Garry? Can I ask you to you've got multiple tabs open, I think. You need to just...
I think that's the only way I can hear you, actually.
Okay, well, don't worry about...
Okay.
Can you hear me now, Garry? Can I ask you to you've got multiple...
Is that better now? Hopefully we're there. There we go. Let's get back onto it then. We all have these problems, and what better way to express fear than being caught up in a technical trap? So my intention is to share with you over the next 15 minutes some tools that will help you fear less. It's not about being fearless. That's not a good state to be in, but to fear less, to take control of the event. So let's jump straight in. What I intend to do is take you back to your childhood. At the very first moment we're born, we enter into gamma brain waves readily. And we do that up to 7 years old. It's said that we learn from the feet up, so let's do so. I want you all to wiggle your toes. If you do that now, you'll immediately go into gamma brainwave, and that helps you learn. So if you're in a fear state, you are learning, whether you like it or not. Once having done that, the next thing I want you to engage is your tongue. I go into this in much more detail, to be honest, in my book, but we haven't got time here. Suffice to say, just place your tongue behind the back of your teeth. In doing that now, you stop a lot of the chatter in your head. You see, when we think, our tongue also speaks as well. And if we can take control of that, we stop a lot of that internal dialogue. This helps us listen to clients, to our partners, to people that want our attention. We've all been told to actively listen. This is a tool to do so. So in gamma brainwave and your internal chatter slowed down, the next thing to do is slow your heart down. I want you to breathe into a count of 3 and out to 5. It doesn't really matter what that breath count is, but as long as our body understands we're breathing in less than we're breathing out, it sprays a neurotransmitter over our heart. And in that way, in that moment, it'll slow your heart rate down. I train a lot of elite athletes, particularly fighters, and this is one way to bring their heart rate down. And suffice to say, release less chemicals that will reduce the fear, namely adrenaline. So I wanted to give you an example of perhaps a client of mine, a story, if you will, about emetophobia. That is the fear of vomit, fear of being sick. And that doesn't have to be physically seeing it. The extremes of it, as this lady was, she'd had 20 years of not going in a taxi, not going on a bus, not going to a nightclub, to a pub, not using public toilets. Does it sound familiar? Possibly, but this was 20 years, not 2020. Maybe she's better prepared now than any of us were for 2020. But she'd reached the end of her road where she couldn't put up with it anymore. Now, I like to do things very quickly, and we found out during a conversation that she'd been with her partner for those 20 years. From the age of 15, they'd been together, and he supported her immensely. He was an amazing husband. Or was he? Because I like to think a bit different about fear and events. What I said to her was, I've got the wrong person in the room. I need him here. We need to start talking divorce, and then you'll get over this like that. Anyway, it's a long story. That isn't just the techniques used. But in the afternoon, we were sat in a pub in Herefordshire. She went to the public toilet. As the universe does, it helped out. There was a lad next to us that started to recount his story of the night before he'd been out with everybody, came home sick all over the couch. Girlfriend had thrown him out. You know the stories. Nothing from her. She could cope with it. Her life is different now. Which brings me on to thoughtful leadership. And I think Penny touched on it wonderfully in the talk before, is that not always we should start as a thoughtful leader in supporting, in offering help. Sometimes the demons need to be dealt with. like her partner, her husband, may have been able to serve her better by saying, we need to sort this out. Sometimes help is a little bit on the dark side. It's a little bit brutal. But that is at the end of the road. It does start with kindness, compassionate, which actually means to suffer together, back to, as Penny said, protecting yourself. It's their reality. Start there. Their reality, spiders, a fear of spiders. That's a very simple one. But when that person sees and experiences a spider as 20 foot tall, who the hell wouldn't be scared? We're all living in our own structured reality. So how can we begin to change some of that? Let's get back to some of those tools. The first one is voice. I mentioned the internal dialogue. Well, we've stopped it a little. Are you still holding your tongue behind your teeth? Or did you forget? Because it's okay to forget. These processes take time. The voices in your head, they may be good ones, bad ones. If they're not so supportive, and those voices can be teachers, parents, harshest of all, our own, then make them silly. Make them a cartoon character. I don't know, Mickey Mouse, Minnie Mouse, whatever makes you think it's just silly and stupid. Because in a state of fear, it's not that we are stupid, we're just doing something stupid, perhaps. Or maybe getting out of there, fight, flight, or fight is the right thing to do. But what we're looking to do is have a clarity to make a judgment on what that is, not a primitive response. So having changed the voice, make it something silly. Another tool I use. These are my happy balls. Better than having sad balls, is it not? I sometimes just use this to give an example, but it can be anything. You see, when we're in a state of fear, anxiety, or depression, all of them, the left brain hemisphere is super active electrically, which makes what you're doing extremely rational. Not to anybody from outside of it, but for your experience, it's extremely rational. So all you have to do is engage both sides, both brain hemispheres, by doing something like this. Left and right hand, it can be left and right foot. It could be marching around a room, putting your knee to your elbow. Maybe. I don't know. But that's an easy way of doing it. It can be a crystal or something. I don't know. Anything. Whatever you have to hand. It can just be tapping left foot and right foot, or your left knee with your right hand and vice versa. Posture. I know I'm rattling through these. We've only got 15 minutes. We've got 6 minutes left. So, posture. Do you think fear you're going to be able to address it like this, looking at the ground? Or do you think your body as an electrical circuit, with the spine being the main cord to transfer that electric, do you think it would be better not kinked and pinched off, straight with shoulders back and head up? Do you think you would feel less of a victim, less overwhelmed when you're looking like you've got the world on your shoulders? Or maybe you've decided you're going to take the world on. When I look back and laugh at this, that's a saying, isn't it? But it's very true. Fear, we're in it. We're totally immersed and engaged. If we can disassociate, step out and look at ourselves doing something silly, there are numerous techniques. Go out there and research them for being able to do so. Time is short here, but I'm giving you clues. I want you to learn how to do this, not to rely upon an expert. It's independent. You're an individual and you find the technique. Lots won't. That's what self-development's all about. Yeah. Some techniques will work for you and clearly lots won't. You are an individual. I deal a lot in the sports world. I've been in martial arts since I was 7 years old. That's a long time, trust me. And during that time, a lot has been talked about. I've got a huge respect, which I want to finish with, is about 1% gains. Lots is talked in the sports world about that. Particularly Sky made that their things with the cycling team, the British cycling team. But let's flip that on its head. Let's talk about 1% less. Imagine for a moment or two, 1% less complaining. And I don't just mean about other people, in particularly to yourself. I'm not good enough. I always, I never. Those bold statements we make to ourselves. 1% less of that. 1% less internal talk. 1% less slouching. Negative isn't always bad. We have to create space. I think I said at one point in a talk, if your head, your heart, and your home are full of crap, nothing's coming in. So if we want less fear, we've just got to practice our habits 1% less. And accumulatively, if I want to do 100 press-ups, I don't start on day one of 100 press-ups. I teach my body by adding one a day or one a week. I can make the process as long or short as I want, but I will get there with little 1%. Which leads into the fear of 2020. Please don't get involved in the story. The best way to protect yourself, your immune system, is to fear less. If you want a strong physical body, lots has been talked today about well-being and everything, and I want to add my piece, which is stay out of the story. I was told that by a mentor of mine. If you cannot help people by being in their story, that's compassionate. I'm suffering with them. If I'm suffering with them, I'm not able to step outside of it and be in a position to help. I can step in temporarily to learn how they do things, but stay out of the story. So the big clue, the big hint I'm going to leave you with that I want you to do 1% less of is 1% less social media and TV news. Put yourself in a position where you can work on all of these other things by not listening to the story so much. The external ones, and then you can begin to work on the internal ones effectively. I've tried to pack a few things in. One way I cope with the world, we've all talked openly about things. Yeah, I've had my troubles and faced things too. One thing that turned it around for me was to think of it's all a game. And that really there's a cosmic joker that likes to have a bit of fun. Laughter is the key. Laughter's the way out. So we talked about 1% less. If you're watching 1% less TV news, maybe put on 1% more comedy programs, something to make you smile. I've talked to a number of people today about, wouldn't it be great, instead of making millionaires, to make the world full of smillionaires? What do you want? Do you want £1 million or 1 million smiles? Because I know the first one doesn't necessarily lead to the second.
Fantastic.
We've got 20 seconds left.
You want some questions, Garry? You're using all your question time up, and we've got people want to ask you some stuff. Is that okay?
Of course, far away.
Okay, but actually it's just picking up on exactly what you just said. So one of our questions said, how does laughter refocus our thoughtful leadership?
much of our experience really comes down to chemicals.
Mm.
And it's the chemicals that laughter releases, principally serotonin. You know, I could get into a huge debate about pharmaceuticals and everything. We won't go there. But just to say that you've got the answers inside of you. You've got the chemicals inside of you to change it. So how much would a team be built by shared laughter?
Yeah.
Rather than harping on about what the team isn't achieving.
Yeah.
If we started with some shared laughter. I used to have to, in my corporate days or corporate world, it used to drive me nuts, really, to be honest, first of all, but I used to have calls with Asda and Walmart.
Okay.
And that used to start with you had to tell a joke. Yeah. At first I thought, oh God, that's not me. I don't tell jokes. But at the end of it, I realized it was brilliant, you know. And you even had, I can't probably say it on here, but you had the B award as well, which rather than being an attack on somebody, you know, it begins with BAS, let's say, right? But it was a fun thing that was made of it. So people laughed together.
Yeah.
So that's one way of thoughtful leadership.
Oh, I love that. And actually, I think your happy balls would do a good job as well, Garry. I definitely want to get myself a set of happy balls, especially the right brain thing. You know, that it just ticks so many boxes. I think that's absolute genius. So I think that if you've got any merchandise to sell and you've got your own pre-branded happy balls, I would absolutely get those into your expo booth now, because you'll have sold it out by the time we finish up today. That was absolute genius. We have one of the slightly more serious question for you now. So you've got that tongue positioning and the effect that has on us physiologically. And the question is, would it help with focus during meditation? So one of our audience says that their mind wanders even during guided meditation. So would that help to still their mind while they're meditating?
Yeah, that's a lot where it comes from, really, to be honest, is from yoga. Has a similar process. Yoga would put it at the top and roof of the mouth. That's achieving something a little bit different, but the principle is exactly the same. It came from, I did something that drives me nuts is not knowing something. And when I'm concentrate, I have this habit, not in when I'm doing martial arts, I might add, of putting my tongue out. Okay. And it was my wife that asked me, why do you do that? And it's like, oh, I don't know the answer. Yeah. So I went off on a huge research.
How fascinating. My brother used to do that when we were kids. You could tell what he was drawing by following the tip of his tongue.
Apparently it's a sign of genius.
Yeah, I think he'll probably agree with that. Actually, I think he would probably agree with that. That was absolutely terrific. And just as an aside as well, when you read back through the chats, I think that, have you ever watched Bob Ross?
Yes.
Yeah. I think that, yeah, you are a natural successor because you have that fantastically relaxing voice. And I think if you were ever to do a guided meditation,
oh my God, that's the best thing somebody's ever said to me. That I love watching Bob Ross.
The man is an absolute marvel.
Oh, I wish I had his painting skills though. That would be just awesome.
Well, you've got your happy little balls and he's got his happy little trees. So.
Thank you, Tiffany.
And that's absolutely marvelous. Thank you so much. It was an absolute joy listening to you, Garry. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you. Bless you all. Bless you.
Sharing our thoughtful leadership. Thank you very much indeed.